Hello, friends. I'm Kathy Fay, Executive Director of the Boston Early Music Festival, and I'm so pleased to welcome you to this very special pre-concert talk preparatory to the upcoming concert on our 2024-2025 concert season featuring the Venice Baroque Orchestra on Saturday, November 2nd at 8 p.m. in Boston's glorious Jordan Hall at New England Conservatory of Music. Before I introduce my guest, Andrea Marcon, founder and director of the Venice Baroque Orchestra, let me just say that all of us at BEMF are thrilled to be presenting this highly anticipated return engagement. Back in February of 2020, when we last presented the Venice Baroque Orchestra in a truly memorable performance with mezzo-soprano Anne Hallenberg, just days later, the global COVID pandemic forced BEMF and countless concert presenters and producers around the world to shut down operations. Our performance by the Venice Baroque Orchestra would be the last live performance on the BEMF concert stage for several seasons. Nearly 5 years later, we are profoundly grateful to welcome the Venice Baroque Orchestra back to Boston. Admired the world over for their exceptional artistry and a steadfast commitment to the rediscovery of performance of Venetian masterworks, the Venice Baroque Orchestra will be joined by the astonishing violin virtuoso Chouchane Siranossian in a dazzling Battle of the Bows, featuring music by some of the greatest composers of the Venetian Baroque. Tickets for our performance by the Venice Baroque Orchestra are still available and can be purchased online or by visiting the BEMF website at bemf.org, or by calling the BEMF office at 617-661-1812. For those unable to attend our performance on Saturday night, November 2nd, virtual tickets are on sale as well. Our virtual presentation premieres on Friday, November 15th at 8 p.m. and will be available for a 2-week period from Friday, November 15th through Friday, November 29th, 2024. So with that, I will now disappear from the screen and turn the microphone over to Andrea Marcon, world-respected conductor, organist, harpsichordist, and founder and director of the Venice Baroque Orchestra. Thank you, Andrea, and thanks to all of you for watching this pre-concert talk. I look forward to seeing you at the concert.
Dear Kathy, thank you so much for your presentation. And the Venice Baroque Orchestra is so happy, and myself, of course, we are so happy to be back in Boston to play for your wonderful and glorious festival, the Boston Early Music Festival, and for your wonderful audience in the fantastic Jordan Hall that I still remember so well. It's also so touching, the idea of playing this concert for remembering and for the memory of Miles Morgan. He was a friend of Venice Baroque Orchestra and of myself. I have so many wonderful memories of our talks about our beloved Baroque music. So really touching to play also for him and his memory. The program we will be presenting is very particular and very audacious, very difficult, and it can be in a way incredibly interesting to put 4 violin composer and violinist as Vivaldi, Veracini, Tartini, and Locatelli all together in one evening, imagining a duel of bows. This bows duel never happened in reality in Venice, but in fact all of them were present in Venice in some occasion to show their skill and their virtuoso playing in the city which was considered il teatro del mondo. So if you were a really important musician, important singer, important violin player, you had to appear in Venice and to show up there, to show all your qualities. And this is exactly what they did. Of course, for Vivaldi was nothing special because he was from Venice and he was born there. But Locatelli, he was born in Bergamo. Veracini was born in Florence, and Tartini was born in Pirano d'Istria, which was a Venetian city. Now today is in Slovenia, and but he spent mostly of his time in Padova. But of course Vivaldi, but also the other three, as I said, they had occasion and to play in Venice. And of course, between them, we cannot say they were really friends. I mean, they were actually kinds of enemies, we could also say. We also know that, for example, Tartini had some very sharp words against Vivaldi. And we also know that when Tartini heard Veracini playing, he had to disappear from public life, and he decided not to play anymore the violin and to go. Actually, he went to a monastery in a kind of clausura to start again practicing violin and developing a new technique after the shock he had listening Veracini. And of course, Locatelli, we know that he presented the concerti called L'arte del violino, l'arte with the capricci, l'arte dell'arco. He presented those pieces actually in Venice, in the Palazzo Michelini, as we can read from his preface, before he decided to publish those pieces in Amsterdam. In Amsterdam, where he went to live from 1729, and he published this music in Amsterdam in 1733. So they were really considered the four musketeers of the violin at the beginning of the 18th century. They were, in fact, kind of acrobats on this fantastic instrument. Yes, the public of that time was really shocked listening to them. You should not forget that the music of Corelli, Arcangelo Corelli, so the music just before Vivaldi, the very famous Corelli Opus 5 was published in 1705. Of course, the music is also difficult and also has a side of virtuoso playing, but you cannot compare with the virtuoso dimension of the concerti of Vivaldi, of Tartini, of Locatelli and Veracini. In fact, Vivaldi can be considered almost the inventor of what today we intend as a concerto for solo instrument and orchestra. This music form, concerto, as we intended today, also with the big cadenzas at the end of the first and at the end of the third movement, was actually invented by Vivaldi. It's the concerto grosso mogul, what we will play at the end of the Boston concert, has huge cadenzas at the end of the first movement and at the end of the third movement, and has a very peculiar second movement, which is actually a recitativo. A recitativo secco was something typical in cantatas and opera music, but not really in instrumental music. And Vivaldi was always very anachronistic and very original in his ideas. So this Concerto Grosso Mogul was maybe had one of the very first example with written out cadenzas. This concerto also impressed Johann Sebastian Bach very much, and Bach transcribed it in C major for the organ. Maybe Johann Sebastian Bach was also very much impressed from those big cadenzas, as for sure he was also impressed from this recitativo secco in the second movement. But maybe already in 1779 Vivaldi wrote in the Concerto per la Lingua di Sant'Antonio the first example of a piece with large cadenzas, and the very demanding, very difficult ones. So this was, with Vivaldi, really the beginning of a new era for the violin, and of course he influenced immediately also the composers which were born just 10-15 years later. So Veracini himself was in Venice in 1711, playing in the church of Santa Maria Gloriosa dei Frari, and where he played an incredible piece, a concerto for solo violin and two trumpets, timpani and oboes. We have this piece which is preserved in the library in Vienna. Also there we can see how much Veracini tried also to imitate Vivaldi's. Many of his violin writing really reminds Vivaldi Grosso Mogul, but Veracini also shows something completely new, even more acrobatic in his writing. And by Veracini we will be playing one Sonata Academica, which was published in 1744, but you will see how much also in the sonatas for solo violin and basso continuo, how much he can write in this virtuoso style. That is actually the moment, the concerto is the moment where the composer almost writes for his own musical capabilities and virtuoso capabilities. So it's really Vivaldi writing for his own bravura, Veracini, Tartini, Locatelli writing to show how good they were. Beethoven will be doing the same, and Bach will be doing the same with the fifth Brandenburg concertos. But as I said, the inventor of this new idea of the concerto idea was surely Vivaldi. Tartini was born in Pirano d'Istria, spent his life in Padova, and is a much more academical composer. He also traveled to Prague. He was also very famous around Europe. He was considered one of the very best violin teacher. He was considered as the maestro delle nazioni. He had students coming from all over Europe, coming to Padova to study with him. Tartini concertos are also extremely demanding, extremely difficult, but they are much more rational if you compare it with Vivaldi concertos. They are not so eccentric, and also there is a certain symmetry in writing. So you can, when you count the bars he reserved for the solo parts, for the solo episodes, you see that there is always a kind of symmetry there that you want to search and to find. And if compared to Vivaldi, Vivaldi is much more rich in his always very innovative and original way of writing. Of course, we have also Locatelli, which was born in Bergamo, but he spent almost all his life, from 1729, he went to Amsterdam, where he published L'arte del violino, the 12 concertos for solo violin and orchestra, but he presented those pieces for the first time in Venice, in Palazzo Michelin, how he writes in the preface of those concerti. And he also writes that he was accompagnato, he was playing together with a numerosissimo numero of musicians. So the orchestra was a very large string orchestra. This is also interesting to know. But Locatelli, in his concerti, writes the place where a cadenza should be improvised, but then he had something new, huge capricci after the cadenzas, which were meant evidently to be not very long, because the capricci, which also can be played separately, are really very long and really extremely demanding for the soloist. So as you can see, those four violin players were really trying to, each one was trying to do more virtuoso playing and more virtuoso writing from really a kind of competition. In this way, the violin technique could really expand and very, very quickly. And in fact, with the concerti of Locatelli, with those longer capricci, is very logical to think also to the capricci of Paganini. And the comparison with those four violin players with Paganini, which Paganini only will appear almost 100 years later, is not artificial at all. So they were, all four of them, kind of Paganini of the beginning of the 18th century. I hope very much this very exciting program will find your enthusiasm and your interest. Please come to the concert because we will have a fantastic soloist, and of course the Venice Baroque Orchestra you know already maybe, and for us will be a pleasure to play for you. And thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you very much to your fantastic early music festival. See you very soon. Bye bye.